This channel is for educational purposes only. Please do your own due diligence before making any investment decisions. Hi, this is Joe Rabil. In today's lesson, I'm going to talk about how I use MACD and ADX in different ways, okay? I get a lot of questions about this, and I want to make sure people understand that they each have their own role. We don't want to use them for the same thing, or you're going to cause a lot of confusion. You're going to have paralysis by analysis, all right? We don't want that. We want to use MACD for one thing and ADX for another, all right? So I'm going to go through this, and I'm going to do it in a different way than I have in the past. I'm going to show you the list that I send out on. I'm not going to show you the whole list, but I'm going to go through a specific set of symbols that I send out on Wednesdays, and I'm going to show you kind of the reasons why they're showing up in the list and why they're attractive for someone who likes to trade intermediate term. All right, let's go ahead and get into this. Now, if you're interested in learning about more of these techniques, I would suggest starting with the book. I do have an ebook version at a discount right now. You can go to rabilstockresearch.com for more information. All right, let's look at these stocks. And one of the things I wanted to show is I'm doing it on TC2000. Now, typically, so I'm going to answer a couple questions today that have come through. Number one, I typically have a white background, and if you notice on most of the videos that I use a white background. When I'm trading, I like to use white. However, this goes back years and years. When I'm browsing symbols, there are times when I will use a black background because I like the, so on TC2000, I can do color coding, and I like to have that NR7 bar so we can see these red bars showing up when we have an NR7 bar. All right. So it's just kind of a nice thing to have. It's not necessary, but it's just something where once you start to look at enough charts over time, it just kind of sinks in your subconscious mind, and you see the potential, especially when you get back-to-back red bars showing up, or maybe even 3 or 4 on a specific time frame. It really kind of heightens your awareness of what you should be watching for. But so that's part of the reason why I like TC2000. I also like because it's very, very fast. I can browse through lists very quickly, depending on what I'm looking for. Now, this is the list. It's actually there's probably a few on here that I didn't highlight for the week, but these were all stocks that I was considering highlighting. And I want you to just understand what I'm doing and get you a better understanding of how to use the MACD and the ADX together. All right. So let's just look at this as a specific example. So ROIV. We can see that on the monthly chart, we made this move to the upside and we've consolidated. All right. Now look at the strength of the ADX on this time frame. So if I've got a stock that has made a strong move above the 18 and is consolidating above, I'm instantly going to look down. So, because I get a lot of questions like, what are your priorities? My priorities are priced higher time frame first. Then I go and look at ADX. All right. MACD is actually something I do a subscriber video on Wednesday. And while I will show and talk about the ADX on that show, especially if I'm trying to teach something, but when we're talking about timing, a lot of the times my subscribers would recognize that I focus in on the MACD for the timing. So if we look at what's taken place here, we have a move to the upside and a consolidation. This is telling me this needs to go on the list. Now, right now, I'd be looking at it as a monthly, weekly, and this is a low ADX condition. So we got strong ADX on this time frame and low ADX on this time frame. Then I'm going to go and look at the MACD. Now, if the MACD is dramatically below the 0 line here, then I know I've probably got some time. But if you notice, this has been skating along 0. So I'm definitely looking at this as a potential breakout play. If this can break out through these highs, this could look really attractive. Now, the fact is that it's actually dropped off that peak. I don't even think I highlighted it this week, but I have been highlighting it. If it works its way back up and doesn't look overbought, then, but what my subscribers are doing is they're taking this list and they're putting in their own alarms. And if it comes up through there, they'll be seeing it, I hope. At least that's what I'm trying to guide them to do. So we're trying to look for this, but I wanted you to understand, look, the ADX is telling me which symbols to be on the lookout for. The MACD is telling me when to do them. Okay, so I want you to think in those terms, especially in pullback trades. So let's look at something like CEIX. So this is a great example. because it's a monthly, weekly pattern. All right. So I do a lot of patterns. I do a lot of highlights for my subscribers that are bigger picture plays. Now, what could end up happening is this could end up pulling back to the weekly 18, which is actually what I would recommend in this setup, because we had strong ADX, and then on the pullback, we have low ADX. I'm very interested. All right. So this is telling me which stocks to put on the list. For Wednesday, when I do my subscriber video, I'm telling them, look, we had a decent amount of overrun here. We need a pullback. We need a pullback to this 18. So probably looking for some kind of an opposing trend trigger or maybe a zero line reversal on the daily chart. And then you could look at it from a weekly daily if you want. But on a monthly, weekly basis, we're just looking for a higher low to form. So we want to understand why we want to use both indicators. All right. If you're only going to use MACD, then you could use it without ADX. You can do it. It can be done. I have traded that way. But what I would tell you is that you should be just trading for a single leg in most cases, not necessarily for a trend. If we want to catch a trend, we want to use the ADX. The ADX is going to tell us which ones can be. I mean, we actually had this on the list way back in here. It's very possible that probably not. It probably had a bigger correction than you could have survived, but you could have made pretty good money, made a few targets, and I think I had some guys actually played this on a weekly and a daily and made really good money, and now they're probably looking at it again if it pulls back, okay? So we want to keep going through these stocks and just give you a different example. This one actually wasn't on the list yet, but I've been watching it really close. Look at it. It's a low ADX on the monthly and a low ADX on the weekly. That's the sole reason why I've been watching it. It's got a sideways pattern in price, sideways pattern in price, and low ADX, low ADX. All right. I don't even look at the MACD. I'm not even worried about the MACD yet. I'm just looking at this and I'm saying, you know what? There's potential energy developing here, and it's actually starting to break out from this base. I probably should have highlighted it this week, but either way, I'm just trying to point out what are the reasons, what are the things we're looking for, and how to distinguish between ADX and MACD. In this case, when you buy breakout plays, you don't necessarily need the MACD in that case. All right, now here's another example where we had a strong ADX on the monthly and then a low ADX on this time frame. Now we can buy the breakout, but what we could also do is let this pull back and pause and pull back towards its 18-week and look for a pinch to develop. If that develops on this time frame, then we're going to get a zero line reversal on this time frame. And this is what I see a lot of my subscribers doing. They're using this combination when they see that this is probably the start of a move based on the ADX. They're waiting for some kind of a pinch or pullback on this time frame and a zero line reversal, and sort of taking advantage of that when it takes place. So they've got this on their watch list. They're watching it really close, and they're looking for entry. Here's another one where we're crossing over on the MACD now. So if we can get a pinch or pullback, this could look pretty interesting. But the reason why it's on the list is because we showed a lot of strength on the last up leg and no strength on the last pullback. Look at this. So this is another one. Why was it on the list? Hopefully you can see by now. Strong ADX on this time frame as we consolidated back towards the 18-month. And then we consolidated sideways, and we had strong ADX on the up move. So before this even starts to pull back, it's got me interested. In fact, I was bringing it up to my subscribers back in here, but now we have another opportunity, and the MACD is saying we were skating along the zero. I call this a zero line, a flyby, because you don't even touch the MACD in this case. So in this case, I know I don't have to wait a whole lot. We could have drawn a trend line here and bought the breakout in this instance because the ADX was strong. It was on the list. Because the MACD looked good and didn't pull back much, we could be a lot more aggressive with the entry. Now, here's another example where I'm putting it on the list based on how strong a move this was to the upside based on the ADX. And we have a low ADX pattern, and look at how this is consolidating back to the 18-month. Right? So I see this first of all, and I see how we've got kind of a low ADX condition. And then I go on this move to the upside. If I'm looking at this leg to the upside, so this is the first thing I'm seeing, and then I'm pulling back. And then I look over here And I'm like, let me look at this. And yes, we have a really strong, huge registry of the strength of the buyers here. And then we go through our ABC correction and we don't show a lot of strength in the sellers. The red DI never even got above 25. So in a case like this, I know that I can be watching this like a hawk. It happens to be a zero line reversal. So we can play this potentially a little bit more aggressively. So I wanted to just make sure I covered this and gave you a pretty good feel for how I'm going through, how am I creating my lists. And yes, these lists are, I think, really high quality names because I'm going through them one at a time. I'm not running a screen. I am looking at thousands and thousands of charts, narrowing it down, and then highlighting the ones that I think each week look like they're near buy points. So that's the idea behind this. Hopefully this gives you a better idea of how to use MACD and ADX together. Everyone have a great trading day. We'll see you next time.